And thank you all for joining. I think we have a very unique mix of companies here, from a travel startup to a financial giant to a transformational expert and to an AI innovator. So I'm very excited to speak with these folks about AI. My name is Angelina, as Martijn already mentioned. I'm CEO of Levi9. And let's start with just a short introduction, starting with you, Brian. And if you will, just name your role, what you do, but also what AI project are you working on at the moment? And keep it as brief as possible because we don't have a lot of time.
Hi, I'm Brian Myburgh. I'm the CTO of Flutis. So Flutis is a new travel startup. So we're looking to reimagine business travel, but also incorporate personal travel, so you can book your business and personal travel in one place. Using AI in our development flow, we've managed to launch both flights and hotel bookings within 7 months, and having 10 clients on the product within 7 months is quite an achievement. And then also in not just in the development flow, but we've also added our first start of Flutis Genie, which is because everyone's using AI in their booking flow, should we say, and we're trying to incorporate it into the platform. So allowing you to use AI in your travel journey. So that's it.
Thank you, Brian. And we're very happy to be part of that journey with you. And we're going to dive into that AI-assisted coding in a bit. Tom, over to you.
Oh, thanks. Good morning. I'm Tom. I feel incredibly old at this moment because I just learned that S3 is 20 years old. Really hurts. I'm a CTO at Bizzdesign. Bizzdesign is building enterprise architecture software. So we help companies in transforming IT systems, IT landscapes, mergers, that kind of stuff. This is a space that's been around for a very long time. We've been building this software for a very long time, and I joined 2.5 years ago to completely reinvent this, try to give this enterprise architect a co-worker that can assist with all the mundane tasks, of course, based on at that moment deep learning. Currently, we call it AI. In day-to-day product building, we use it. It's not something we slap on. It's one of the tools in our toolbox, and I think it's really interesting to be at this position at this time. Of course, with all our developers, we are also looking at how can we improve our day-to-day working. We'll get into that later.
Yes.
But, I'll keep it to this. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. How about you, Bob?
So I'm Bob. I'm one of the co-founders of Weaviate, open source vector database. We have all of our customers. Kind of nice to see, by the way, that at least 4 of the sponsors I saw are big customers of ours, so that's kind of nice. But we serve 10,000s of databases in production for customers. Open source, we see 2.5 databases per second being spun up all over the world. All of those are AI use cases. So I think that's a bit too much to name all of them, but that's a lot.
Yeah, so we really have an AI expert here in the panel. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. And then Rémon.
Yes, thank you, Angela. I'm Rémon. I'm head of engineering of NN, Customer NLdigital. So we are all about the front side, but in our space, and what my focus is really looking at developer acceleration, ease of use, shorter time to market, etc. I'm not even going to try to iterate on the number of AI use cases where we have. We're in 18 business units in 10 countries. We're all over the place looking at every option to accelerate and apply AI use cases, but AI itself is not the goal. For us, the goal is to accelerate the service to our customer. So, and that's also why we're talking.
But very exciting for your team to be able to work on all those projects. And it was a nice clip in the video that we just saw.
Yeah, that's actually one of the groups within my business unit as well, Data AI, and they made a platform called Gaia, where they are able to really fast deploy RAG models. Okay. And actually give an engine to some of the ideas that we have out there. But it is a big part, but it's just one part of everything going on.
Okay, Good, thank you. Well, to dive into AI-assisted coding, can I maybe start with you, Brian? Can you tell us what is working for you now? Is there one specific tool that you would advise the whole group here to start working on, or how do you see that?
I find it hard to name one tool. I think you need to pick the right tool for the right moment. I also don't want to downplay some of the tooling, but I find especially from AI code completion, Amazon Q is very good for AI for AWS problems, I would say. But also in my workflow, I use GitHub Copilot because I find it really helps with code completion. And then if you're trying to do the initial design and concept work and trying to come up with a good solution and rubber duck against someone, I suppose ChatGPT I think is a better tool. So I think you need to find which tool, but that's just my workflow, and everyone has their group of products that speed up their development flow.
And do you use them in combination, or do you really use them in silos?
No, in combination. Sometimes you have to play them off because, especially in a multi-account structure AWS, I find most tooling gives you incorrect answers, and you have to play them on against each other to try and get the best solution. And also, you can also sense check one against the other.
Yeah. Anyone else in the panel want to comment to that? Any other perspectives?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think what Brian mentioned here, really these tools, they're like miniature co-workers, right? You find the right one for the job that you want to do, and you need to have the freedom to pick who you want to work with, what you want to work with. Otherwise, you won't get the job done. And the myth that there's one tool to rule them all, or maybe that's not a myth, maybe it's just what the CEO thinks. Sorry, it just does not exist. And I think as a leader in a tech organization, you're responsible to make sure that there's a culture where people feel okay to experiment with different tools and figure out what works for them. And sometimes there's pretty big boundaries to entry. Like if you want to get a license for tool X, it's under $50 a month, and you have to subscribe for a year. Mm-hmm. Is that okay? Previously, IT would always say no, and I think in this era we should make sure that there's budget for that people feel free to experiment, but also that we take, and we get to that later, we take the juniors by the hand to make sure that they also select the right tools based on the experience that senior developers that don't have a lot of AI experience have.
No, that's an interesting point, because the whole approval process on which tool to use is not only internal, but in many cases also a conversation that you can have with customers. Do they give consent on using certain tools? Indeed. Any other insights?
Well, especially in a financial institute in an enterprise setup, unfortunately, we have to lag behind a little bit and not jump on every bandwagon, because, well, in that sense, enterprises are slow, so we'll probably miss it and drop flat face on the ground anyway. But it's also a benefit for us. So we're lagging behind a little bit sometimes in some of the adoptions, but that allows us also to observe the market and basically not go in with the latest, wildest avenues. In our case, meaning that we'll invest more and allow more on a Microsoft platform, so Office 365, M365, whatever the name is today. That Copilot. And that actually allows us to work with it in Teams, in the browser, in Edge, etc. All company standards, which is helping us a lot to do the rubber duckying I heard from Brian already, right? And we have GitHub Copilot, essentially also a Microsoft product. But we're expanding that with new LLM engines as well. And what we see that there is, we need to take a back step in some of the speed of adoption, because our security services, they do need to be okay with it. But
I think, Bob, you are probably on the other side of the spectrum, right?
Yeah, so what's interesting, so we ask our people who sign up just to buy like a database where they swipe their credit card, we ask them, how do you know about us, right? Because we want to know. So is it like social media content you read? Is it a course you took? What did you do? And what's by far number one is ChatGPT. So it's like we're building something and we're asking what database do we need to build track or those kind of things. And then they said like, hey, we recommended you guys. And that's like that's what we see like a lot. So the team, that's actually interesting for those in the audience building stuff. The whole what they now call geo, so not like SEO, but the new thing geo. That's a thing. So we publish these flat text files just on our website that you can feed directly into an LLM. So if you're coding stuff for Weaviate, then these models, they pick it up. Like back in the day, you saw it SEO, but now then for the models, that the models are just up to date with the latest coding standards, or if you deprecate something, etc. And that's the thing. That's like not a little bit of thing. It's like really big. It's like that answer that people use a model to find us is more than 50% higher than the number 2.
Fantastic.
And the number 2 is still word of mouth. So it's like it's super interesting how that works. Yeah.
We're getting some marketing tips here. That is really good. No, important point.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to go back to Tom. You mentioned juniors and seniors. I know that that's also a hot topic. So do we, in the future, even need seniors, or the other way around? Do we need juniors because will they be able to control or check the code? What is your perspective on that?
Well, that's one way to open Pandora's box immediately. This is really a cliche discussion, right? So how do you bring your juniors up to speed to a level where you trust them to do something completely individually, all by themselves? And I think the movement we now see is that people that don't have a lot of experience, and to simplify it, I call that a junior here, they can build things that were not possible a year ago. As to the keynote we just saw, it remains really important to understand what you're doing, but because of the complexity of the systems that they can build, it really requires a more senior person by their side to explain to them what the model has actually built for them. And I think this is a very quick transition into how you learn. How juniors learn completely changed in a year. They used to have to figure things out, being taken by the hand by a senior, guide into a direction, and now you suddenly have a solution that you have to completely understand. Otherwise, the senior will fry you in the review. I think that's a fundamental change, and it really requires us to rethink how we structure teams.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer to that, but if anyone has one, please hit me up.
Because we're starting to build internal capability now. And it does change the composition of your team with regards to the number of seniors, juniors, and that. But it also changes the way you train your staff and the way you want them to develop. So you want them to be more inquisitive because they can build and they can test and build proof of concepts quicker and try things. And that way they can learn quicker. But you still need the senior people to guide them how to do the development, what right looks like, because I think what right looks like is still a gray area.
So you're making combinations in your organization.
Does that mean that you have more juniors in your team because they help each other, or does it mean that you need more seniors with the juniors to get them to learn in the right way?
So I think the number of juniors in one go is still training a big pack of juniors in one thing is still tedious for senior developers, but I think we picked up the medium in the middle, because you get people that's starting out or people that like a media developer can express themselves more, can learn more, but the senior developer still needs to be there, and you still need a number of them, because there's a lot more code being created now. That's where we found a lot of the bottleneck now is in the code reviews. Because with a big team, you can develop so much code. And the question is, how much of the review do you leave? So using Copilot for reviewing gives you a lot of insight, but it's not going to give you 100% sign-off. So you still need the amount of senior developers in that structure of the team.
Hey, and Bob, I think you are also very experienced in enabling the development team. Can you share some insights on that? So maybe how do you enable the junior developers or the senior developers?
Yeah. So the assumption is made by the gentleman on my left that the senior developer manages down. I think a great senior developer knows how to manage up, right? So I had a junior engineer at my company. So I don't have engineers directly reporting to me, but we have like 100 or so. And he asked me, he said like, how do I become a senior engineer? And I said, well, if you want to become a meteor engineer, that's easy. You just get better at what you do, right? So you've done it more often, you get better. So if you want to become senior, you get better at like talking about it, right? And explaining what you're doing. And the challenge is not so, and sure, there's part of it that you just help junior people in the organization if you're more senior because you know something or you help them do stuff. But it's more about what needs to be built and how you communicate what you think or believe is a good idea or not, right? Because I see some yeses in the audience, I assume that these people are engineers and they all know that if they need to explain what they're doing to the business, that's always like, always a mess, right?
You make it sound like a dirty word, indeed, business.
Yeah, well, it's that's I run the business at my company, right? But I completely understand where these people are coming from, because there's this assumption that the senior engineer needs to explain what they're doing rather than the other way around, why they're being asked. Explain to them why they need to build what they need to build. So the thing is, just to make this go to AI, that human interaction, right? That's not going to change. They're only going to get more, right? So it's like I believe that these AI systems that we help build, they will build more and stuff faster. But it's still just a human-to-human interaction of like what we're building, why are we building that, why do we think we can get value from it, and those kind of things, right? And that's and that is something that's going to change. And I think it's interesting to see how like the engineers now get nervous, right? So I mean, my girlfriend is like now. My girlfriend is now buying AI tools, and because she's like working on an app that she wants to launch, so she's making it herself. So she's vibe coding that. Did you see the people on the screen earlier? Now the engineers like, oh, I don't like the word vibe coding. Well, of course you don't, right? Because now other people know how to start to do these kind of things. So that's the thing that's changing. But seniority for me sits not in writing code; it sits in explaining your code, and not down but up.
Good point. So
Thank you.
AI at the end of the day is just a tool, and there's just human interaction still needed.
Yeah, if I may quickly say something about that too, we've seen it with mobile, right? So everybody who went through mobile, do you remember those days that you had like a mobile first website? That's gonna change. That's gonna happen. And it's not me saying that. There's like you see all the people like recently. Benedict Evans had a super interesting presentation on that, right? Where you already see the first signs that we're just gonna assume that AI is gonna be part of certain interactions that people have with the applications that they're building. So it's just gonna become software.
Yeah,
it's just gonna be part of software stack.
Brian, I want to get back to you because I remember that you told me that for you, when you use AI or when your teams use AI, that latency is important. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Well, it's one of the use cases we had was one of our SaaS providers. When booking a flight, there's rules attached to booking a flight ticket, and the response is very shouty capitals, not really readable. So instead of writing a parser, we pass that through AI and get an AI generated version of it that we can display in both mobile and web version. The issue is when you click on it, it could take between 5 and 15 seconds to get this translated version, and that's not a good user experience from a user's perspective. So, and also sometimes the AI generation could, well, you have to say it's AI generated so that people also make sure they've got both versions so they can compare. So we give them the shouty version and then also say, would you like to see it, the AI generated better version, and then allow them to click, and then hopefully by that time it's
how many click?
Yeah, just one click, and then and then you get this nice pretty version. So it's but before you would have written a parser, whereas now with a couple of hours you just incorporate the AI generation into your workflow, and then able to create that generated content.
So this is actually already an example of a product that is AI enabled that your end users are using.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you speak a bit about that? Because I think we've now touched a lot on how is AI helping us in the development process, but tell us a bit about your product and how is it helping you create a better customer experience?
Yeah. So that's the one use case was when someone's booking a flight ticket, so that they know the rules and the cancellation policies and that's just using AI to a quick way of doing ETL process. But the next part is incorporating AI into what should I pack when I go on holiday, or the first iteration was also just getting AI to create the same payload for our backend APIs. So you can I want to travel to Paris next week, where it will create the payload that you send to the backend. So it just automatically just goes into your flows quite nicely. But then tailoring that, that's easy to constrain, should I say, or that the response will be correct because it's going to your backend API, and then you're getting the right response, and then it's the same flow. The more trickier bit that we've actually we've kind of switched it off for a little bit while we tweaking it is the more elaborate ones with what should I pack on holiday to Paris, or what does Flutis recommend us to travel? And because you can't 100% guarantee what the responses are.
You don't have a control over it if it's open, right?
Correct. That sometimes we found that you could get not incorrect. It's just it looks like some of the data could be coming from our competitors, or data that doesn't look or doesn't feel enough as the Flutis DNA that we're trying to project. So I think that's the tricky bit that we're trying to achieve now, is making sure that it goes in and the flow is the same, and then we're able to switch it on for a few customers very shortly.
Yeah. And Tom, I think you've also had some experience in really productizing AI. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
A little bit, yeah. Thanks.
No, yeah.
The way we approach this is we look at through the eyes of an enterprise architect or a user of our platform, and we look at what you want to accomplish and how we can assist them. And we try to cut that up in as small chunks as possible. So really try to figure out how can we do these small tasks, how can we make them, how can we measure them, how can we make sure what we automate, what we use AI for, is actually successful for the user, and then iterate on that and iterate on the small pieces first before it becomes a big thing. It's very easy to get lost in, we need an agent for this, and we need all the buzzwords on the website as early as possible. But in the end, it's just testing the small pieces and making sure you get the quality that you need. And sometimes this is really simple, and it can be arithmetic, but sometimes it's complex RAG or multiple agents working together to solve one problem. But if we don't measure what our user needs, then it's impossible for us to steer this in the right way, especially because for us, we're not very experienced with this yet. Any of these experiments are really, the outcome is really uncertain. So at first we need to know why we're doing it.
Yeah.
And that's I think nowadays in the fabric of how we build product. But that's a transition that we went through in a year-ish.
Okay. And does any of you really have already a measurable outcome where you can say, hey, because we've done this supported by AI?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Rémon.
Yeah. It's already a bit of a solution in can because we've been running it for quite a while already. But whenever you call Nationale Nederlanden and you actually you speak to a human instead of a self-help portal, etc., which is of course easier in most cases. But when you do, the entire conversation is transcribed automatically. And that's not so super new, but it's also done using AI in a sense. But what happens after that is that the summary of that and the action points coming from that conversation actually is condensed into an output ready to be used by the operator. Reduced the general processing time from a call from 7 minutes to 2. At our scale, that's huge.
Yeah.
right? So not only that, the action points, they can always be edited by the operator, of course. There's always a person in the middle, a person in the loop. But that really helped in raising the quality bar as well. It's like, hey, this was our conversation. This is the feedback we are able to give you. These are our outcomes. And the second one is that we are our problems are with people, right? We're providing financial services, so we don't have so much the B2B, of course, but for the same insurances.
But people.
But still people, indeed. But it's the enormous overload of information that we have at our fingertips in order to actually answer a question.
Mhm.
So I don't know how much fun you had reading your Polisvoorwaarden of your house insurance or your pension, etc. The last time that you did. But we are able to compile that really quickly and offer that to the operator in order to expedite an answer. And that's really going into next levels now.
That's fantastic that you already have some measurable outcomes, because I think everyone that's using AI, we all know that it will create massive productivity gains. At least that is the promise.
Yeah.
But it's still not easy for a lot of companies to measure it yet. So that is really, really good. Anyone also has an example of it increasing the customer satisfaction or experience, or from a business perspective, not only productivity, but really enhancing an experience that you were not able to do before?
Yeah, I can go there. So it's
Yeah.
like I recently wrote a blog post about this, which did surprisingly well, and the title of the post was "Going Short on Growth," and that's one of the things that we see a lot. Was also so the use case you described. We see those types of use cases were the first ones we saw that were like unique. But the interesting thing is that we seem to have a knee-jerk reaction, we as all of us, into finding a value in cost saving, right? So if you something that takes you 10 minutes now takes you 2 minutes, then you saved some money. It's great. It's like, but as one of my mentors always likes to say, if you work for a company who tries to save money rather than make it, you should get the hell out of there. So the question is like, how do you make more money? And those are the new use cases that we see on top of our technology, right? So, for example, and it speaks to this example speaks to way more people than I imagined. But that dating app, Bumble, they're gonna release a new service where you can, not for dating but for friend finding, and where they need to have a better understanding of like, who is this person, right? So, and how do we connect people? That's all. That's basically a huge RAG application built on top of our database with the models, and they could not have built that without the use of AI, because there's too much data that needs to be correlated. So that's new business. So there's every time that somebody signs up, there's new business. So there's new growth.
That's a new functionality.
Yes, and that is something that I look out for a lot, right? So especially you see also with startups and those kind of things. It's like, what's the new growth driver that's coming in through AI. So it's like that's just one example. There are many more, but it's like that is what I always look out for. So if you see customers, because in our case we're in that database provider for it, that you say, okay, what are the use cases that are cost saving versus the use cases that are revenue driving, and that is always more interesting, right? Because cost saving applications always, they cap. Right, so from a business perspective, right? So, for example, the example you gave, that's something that caps. Then that value is being generated, great. But if it's new business, there's often correlated with more data coming in. Right, so you need more data to give a better service. So that's super interesting to correlate those two things to each other. So first asking the question like, is this AI use case a cost saver or a revenue driver? And then you can see correlations that cost savers often flatten out, and revenue drivers, they grow. I run a business, so I want them to grow, right? So that's one way to think about it.
Or you use the cost savings to invest more and create more new business opportunities as well.
That could be possible. I don't know how to do that.
You're in the VC world. It doesn't work like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good.
I think this is a really important call out, right? If you can grow your business by picking out certain areas where you can provide more value to your current customers or find new customers with that value. You create the opportunity to innovate more instead of you focus on making sure that you're more efficient in things that you're already really good at. That's way more limited.
Yeah. Now, I fully agree, but I think at the moment I see a lot of productivity, cost saving use cases, and I think there's so much that we can still create while using AI. There are endless possibilities, and I think we're only at a starting point at the moment.
We started the discussion with how can we be more productive as software engineers, but actually how can we be more innovative as software engineers, because there's more technology at our fingertips.
That brings me to my hobby horse.
Aha!
So it's like thank you.
Yes.
We
Tell us,
agreed that he would do this.
$1
No.
is okay.
Yeah, exactly. No, so it's like the people in your business who understand your business potentially best are your software engineers, right? And they know these tools, they play around with these tools, and they can help you come up with those ideas. You don't have to tell them, right? So it's like that's why I'm a big believer in that there's like this famous book from Twilio people. It's called "Listen to Your Developer." It's like they understand your business way better than you sometimes might think, and what they can articulate, what you can do to make more efficient or do new things. That's where a lot of growth is, potential growth is coming from. That's why a lot of startups that disrupt or use these technologies to disrupt are the people not only coming up with the business idea, but also writing the code to do it, right? Because then you can do those things together. So it's and I think it sits in the word developer. It needs to be somebody, in my opinion, who's hands-on, or as I always like to say, like we talked about, like senior engineers and the how they're good to talk about it. If you take like a senior engineer who's really good at talking about it, but they don't know how to write software, that's what you call an enterprise architect. So it's like you really want to focus on people who know how to write software and who can build it for you. So and they are in your business. They understand your business. So if you listen to them, they can help you to move faster in doing new stuff, right? And that excites them because it's cool to do.
But it excites you as well.
Yeah, because then they need to use my technology.
And Brian?
But this goes hand in hand, because we spoke about the speed of development, the using the tool in development, where it allows you to add more capability to do more revenue, where you're expanding functionality to your client. But then it comes back to your previous one, where we spending effort on creating or adding the AI element or into the flow, which we find is very hard to calculate on how much that increases revenue, because it increases more like the feel-good factor. But for us to add rail tickets plus experience tickets plus train tickets will increase, we know it will increase revenue, but will increase the feel-good factor on adding more AI to the platform. So it's I think it's an interesting conundrum.
I'm not sure if I understand what you're saying. So are you saying you don't know if the feel-good factor leads to more revenue?
Correct.
Yeah, so there's actually beautiful research on that. So it's called the it popped into my mind what it's called in a bit, but what it basically states, it's research by this guy called Joe Pine. It's super interesting, and it basically explains, it's from 10, 15 years, 20 years back, that explains like if you buy for example, if you explain based on coffee beans, right? If you buy coffee beans, that is relatively speaking cheaper than if you buy coffee in the supermarket. And then the espresso that you buy from is also relatively speaking more expensive. So then the question is like, how can we drive revenue more? And it's actually because of a great experience. Because people are willing to pay up to $15 for a cappuccino at Starbucks, which was not significantly different than just a regular espresso, but it was like a $10 difference in selling it. The experience economy. Thank you. So the research is called the experience economy. It's used a lot in software because we've learned that actually the biggest driver for capturing more value from your customers is not coming through more technology or doing it faster, but a better user experience. That's what people are willing to pay for. So that makes it super interesting. In your case, to that experiment that you've decided to not that you're going to show the traditional text first, and then somebody has to click the button. That sounds to me like a beautiful A/B test. Right? I would just A/B that. Right? Just do one with a button, and one you show it first, and then you see what people who buy more, and that's how you can measure that kind of stuff. And we see a lot of those kind of tests happening, those AI A/B tests right now. but it's like it's the research that better experience makes people pay more is like that's proven. We know that, and it's called the experience economy. Super interesting.
It's in a few words, it's more or less the whole business case for insurances and to actually go down this path, enhance the user experience. We want our customers to love us, work with us, but if they can do it in 2 minutes, that would be great. Just go in, do your thing, change your name, get an insurance, be out in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Ideally on the app.
Because it's not I think if you book a trip, it's a nice experience in the end. But I think for insurance, you just want to be as effective as possible.
You want to know that it's done. You want to have it confirmed. You want to have a good feeling that it's the right coverage, etc., etc. But you want it to be quick as well. It shouldn't be a pain with 15 screens and actually going that route.
But trust is also important in your business. So how do you balance that with trusting AI and then also governing trust in the experience?
So far, except for slow steps in the chat bot that you will see upcoming in the upcoming weeks and 2 months, NN has chosen the path not to expose AI in that sense directly to the end customer. We're a financial institute. We have regulations, DNB, etc. So that's kind of a nasty set to go into. Deeper down, though, if we're looking at experience about getting your claim settled, getting the information you need, and giving that feedback, that really builds that customer experience. And that actually, in our market, is very significant to grow your revenue and grow your market share. Although we're kind of, at the top section already, but still, you want to increase that. Besides the fact that increased regulation and requirements and security are adding more and more and more to our developer experience and the mental overhead. So we need the new tools to actually reduce that and actually lever and counter that additional workload. But I'm really on board with the gentlemen, what they all said. It's kind of all moving upwards. We're going into more of an orchestration and, well, not so much always architecture, enterprise architecture, but a lot of orchestration on software, talking about it. And I always like to call out that the new skill set that people need to grow in are communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and more of those C's. Empathy sometimes, but that's a factor in sometimes looking in, is your AI use cases the right one?
Ethical one.
Ethical, indeed. So any of those need to always start with the question, what am I actually trying to do here? And not because it's AI, it's cool.
No.
Can I say something about trust?
Yes, in 1 minute, and then we will close off with some advice for the group here.
So it's like do people in the room here have like Gen Z children, like kids that are like in the Gen Z age?
Yep.
Yeah. You have to check what they ask ChatGPT, like what their whole life stories go in there. So they trust the thing. I can tell you that.
They see it as a friend. Yes.
Yes, exactly, as a friend. So I don't have kids in that age, but my neighbor, she calls ChatGPT and her friends, they call it chat, like as a name, and they talk to them, and it's fantastic. It even replies with like, "Hey babe," when it gives an answer. That's pure trust, right there, right? So it's like and that's the new generation that are building software. In my case, that I'm selling to, that need to get insurances that you're selling to. So it's like, and for you guys, of course, same. So it's like buying tickets. So I think this is also funny, right? So if we talk about trust, we look at our own age group. That's can we trust this? But it's actually people buying or soon to be buyers. They are 2 generations before us. No disrespect to some 3 cases and 3 generations. But that's where we need to look, and they trust the stuff. Right?
You're right, and that's the future, right? At the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, thank you so much for sharing all those interesting insights. I want to close off with just some advice that you have for the audience. Starting with you, Brian, if you can give a nice one-liner on the advice that you would have.
I think my advice is there's no easier and better time to build than now.
Because of all the possibilities.
Exactly.
Good. Tom?
Well, that plus, I think if you want to build these things, dream really big, start really small, and validate that you're on the right path every time you go.
Yes, what they said, right? So less talking, more building, right? Less conferences, more building, right? It's like building.
I think you even mentioned shut up and code. At,
Yeah, whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, I can even use more strong language if you
Yeah,
prefer.
go ahead.
No, no, there's a camera over there.
It's recorded.
Okay.
It's recorded.
No,
Raymond, you?
AI is not a bandage, so don't let your C levels trick you into jumping into the next cliff. Simply because AI. Ask why and how.
So real.
Be critical.
Be critical.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for watching this panel, and thank you so much for joining.
You're welcome.
Thanks.